What is reputation and why does it matter?
Well, reputation is essentially the sum of what everybody thinks and feels about you as an organisation, or even as an individual, and is extremely important because people then base their own decisions based on how they feel or think about you. So for a big company, for example, it's about whether people want to work for you, whether people want to buy your products. And increasingly, this is being recognised, reputation is being recognised as a strategic corporate asset, not only by senior leaders, by the CEO, but also by boards and also by investors who want to understand that the companies they're investing in really value their reputation and are protecting their reputation from the risks to reputation that issues and incidents can present. Well, organisations absolutely can prepare for a crisis, and the more prepared you are to face a big risk like a corporate crisis, then quite simply the better you're going to be at actually managing it. And what organisations need to do is think through how they prepare their leaders, how they prepare their structure, how they prepare process, how they prepare their people, and how they prepare their culture, so that they are ready holistically to manage anything that may come their way. Well, all crises are different, and crises can come from issues or incidents. They can come from inside the organisation, they can come from outside the organisation. But what differentiates a crisis is that it is so significant. It is potentially an existential threat to the organisation. It's going to present a risk to people potentially. It could present a risk to the financial interests of the organisation, the strategic interests, commercial interests, and the very existence of the organisation. So a crisis is something that is extremely important, and an organisation should only call a crisis in those most extreme circumstances. But wherever it comes from, a crisis needs to be managed in a certain way, and what you can do is prepare your people, prepare your leaders, prepare your structure, so that they're in a better place to manage a crisis. Some companies are pretty crisis ready. A lot of companies, though, are still playing catch up. What I found is that a lot of companies in the big engineering sectors, mining, oil and gas, etc., are getting pretty good at crisis management, but still a lot of them actually have evolved crisis management out of incident management and emergency response. What we're seeing now is that a lot of the corporate crises that we see unfolding before our eyes on the news are actually coming from issues, reputation issues, trust issues, rather than the big incidents, the oil spills, the plane crashes, the train crashes, that sort of thing. And it's really important that organisations recognise that a crisis could come from anywhere. Yes, it could be a physical incident, but it could also come from poor corporate behaviour, poor governance, or just generally poor performance. And a lot of the crises in recent years have been in that category. Crisis management has changed with social media, there's no doubt about that. Everything's probably changed because of social media. It's changed how we interact, how we experience news, how the extent to which we can be citizen journalists, posting pictures and videos and comment on everything. I don't think crisis management has hugely changed because of social media. The way in which companies respond to crises may have tactically changed. There's different channels, there's different ways of approaching things. But strategically, it hasn't really changed things. You still need to approach a crisis in the same way. Crisis management is essentially about making, implementing, and communicating really big decisions under the toughest of circumstances, under extreme pressure and extreme scrutiny, and when organisational risk is very high. So social media may change how communications professionals respond to that and play their part in a crisis situation, but it hasn't really changed the overall structure of how a crisis works. Well, what I hope happens in crisis management in the next 5-10 years is that more and more organisations from more and more sectors really see the strategic value of crisis preparedness. A lot of organisations in the big engineering companies, for example, the defence companies, oil and gas companies, mining companies, they've understood crisis management for a long time now. Not all sectors are in that place. For example, services companies, banking companies, they're a little bit playing catch up on this because they're seeing that the sorts of crises they could face are not necessarily the big physical incidents that many people associate crisis management with, but the softer stuff, trust issues, behaviour, poor performance.